Hello YouTube and welcome to another video from me, your host Logan Albright. We're not talking books today. I thought I'd do something different because it's been a while since I made a video about music, and my last review about Camille Paglia's book, I was a little bit in a rush when I made that, and I felt like I didn't spend as long talking about it as I could have. So we'll do something a little bit extra this week and we'll talk about music. This video is about the band, if you haven't seen the title, Electric Six, who are an amazing band, one of the best bands working today, and I think very underrated. And it's the band I've probably listened to more than almost any other band since about 2018. And I'll get into my history with them in a minute. But I thought we'll talk about them. I'm going to see them in May in Atlanta. So it's been my third time seeing them in concert, and I'm excited about that. So they're on my mind. Let's talk about them, and then let's rank all of their albums. They have many, many studio albums, and I'm going to go through all of them. I'm not going to talk about live albums. I'm not going to talk about compilation albums, and I'm not going to talk about covers albums. These are just going to be studio albums with original material on them. They'll have one or two cover songs in there, but that's what we're going to go through. But first, who are Electric Six? Well, if you were on the internet in 2003, you may have heard of them because they had a couple of hits off their first record, which were something of a meme. They had the songs Danger High Voltage and Gay Bar, were both, very popular on the internet. I remember in particular someone made a beautiful video of a Viking kitten playing guitar to Gay Bar, and it was very funny. And everyone was excited about this band. They're sort of retro. Their sound is very party, very high energy, but they sort of have a new wave feel to them. They sort of have a disco feel to them. They sort of have a heavy 80s rock feel to them. It's all blended together, and they've varied their style heavily over the years and done lots of different things. But from that first album, they've continued to release music almost every year or every other year since then. So they have I think they have 15 records that are not covers or live or compilations. So, and then their lead singer, Dick Valentine, also has a few solo albums out, which I'm not going to talk about today either. But they're just great. They're super high energy, super positive, lots of fun, big party atmosphere, and I love going to see them live, and I love listening to their records. I put them on all the time. So I first discovered them in 2003, 2004-ish, around that time when they became a meme, and we'll get into more about it as I go through the individual records. So let's start with that. I'm going to start with my least favorite record and then go on to my most favorite, and I should say almost all of these records are great. I have very few complaints about them. I'd say the last two, or the first two I'm going to talk about, the worst two, are not so good. Those ones I think are kind of duds, but everything else is good. So if I rank it low on the list, it is not because I don't think it's a good record. It's just because I have to put them in order. I don't have to put them in order. I'm choosing to put them in order, but you got to put them somewhere if you're going to do a list like this. So don't be offended if I put your favorite record low. And if you haven't heard of this band before, maybe you'll get some good recommendations of music to listen to. I have a little list here because I don't have the albums handy with me, but I did make a list of all of them and we can talk about them. Okay, so there's 15 albums to go through, and let's start with my least favorite album, which is Human Zoo. This was kind of a tough choice between these last two because they're bad for different reasons, and I wasn't sure which is worse. But Human Zoo, I think it was their 10th album, right in the middle of their career, basically late middle of their career, and it just doesn't do it for me. It has a cool cover, and it's the kind of thing I thought I'd like. It's got a lot of song titles that sound fun, like I'm the Devil and things like that, fun song titles, but it's sort of annoying. The songwriting really isn't there. There's one song on it I really like a lot, which is called Alone With Your Body, and that's sort of got a 60s kind of rhythm and blues soul kind of thing going on to it. Great bass line. Really love that song, but the rest of the album is all duds as far as I'm concerned, and I hardly ever listen to it. It's the one I consider the worst of all of their records, even though it does have one song I really like on it. Number 14, let's see, this would be their a 12th album, maybe? I'm not remembering. I think it's around their 12th album. It's late in their career. It's called Fresh Blood for Tired Vampires. It's got a really stupid cover, poorly drawn. It doesn't reflect the style of music that they do at all. And the reason I don't like this one is not so much the songwriting is bad, but the production on it is super bland. It's just very low energy, a lot more electronic sounding, and I don't have a problem with electronic stuff in general, but it doesn't have the kind of punch and the oomph that this music needs. Everything sounds kind of low energy and weak on this record. And there's a couple of good songs on it. I like in particular the first track, The Number of the Beast, is a pretty good song, but there's nothing that really stands out as great, and just the overall vibe and feel of the record is just too lame. It just doesn't hold up, and so that was, I really felt like, when I discovered that album, I kind of bought all these at the same time because I rediscovered the band late in their career, and I went out and bought them all at once, and I was worried that this was a sign of their declining quality, but they've since rebounded and had returned to form. So that's one of my least favorites. But those two, Human Zoo and Fresh Blood for Tired Vampires, are the only two albums in the list that I would consider to be not very good. All the rest I think are great, just different degrees of great. So let's go to number 13 on the list, which will be their most recent album called Turquoise. And I do like this album. It came out last year, and that's the one they are now touring to support. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of those songs in live and in person. It seems to be largely, like so many pieces of art made in this time period, it's sort of influenced by the pandemic and the lockdowns. I think that the title track, which is my favorite track on the record, is about kind of the lockdowns and people's fear and the response to the pandemic. It's about protecting yourself with some kind of a magical talisman made of turquoise. It's a great song. I really like that one. There's a couple other songs on there that I think are quite good too. But again, I have production issues with this record. It's not that it's limp or weak like Fresh Blood for Tired Vampires. It's that it's mixed very high in the treble. The treble was mixed way too hot. And so like the cymbals, the songs that have lots of cymbals and snare drums and stuff in it, it's just like overpowering the rest of the music. And it sort of hurts your ears when you listen to it on headphones, particularly the title track. There's these crashing cymbals that start the thing. And it's just not mixed that well, in my opinion. And then there's not a ton of really standout tracks. I think they're all pretty good, but none of the ones that, apart from the title track, which I go back to a lot, none of the ones that I want to return to often because they're good songs, but they're not, compared to the rest of the band's catalog, they don't really stand out to me as being amazing. So that would be my number 13 pick for the list of Electric Six albums. Number 14 is a record called Bitch Don't Let Me Die. This is, again, late period. And again, I like this record a lot. I think there's some really good stuff on here. There's particularly a song called Kids Are Evil, which is really good. Love that one. There's a song called Dime Dime Penny Dime, which is like really, really high energy. Occasionally, Electric Six will sort of do these kind of country pastiche parodies where he does like a southern accent. And Dime Dime Penny Dime is sort of like that. It's got a really aggressive horn section. It's super fast. It's really a lot of fun. And then there's a song called Take Another Shape, which is like the main song where the title of the record comes from. And that song is really good too. So there's a few really good songs on here. The rest of it is sort of uneven. There's a few things I don't like as much on it, but it's a really good record. I like it. Next up, what's this? This will be number 11 on my list is Mustang. And Mustang is, I believe, a fan favorite. A lot of people really like this one from what I've read. It didn't really click for me as much. I like the record. It's got good stuff on it. There's a really funny song called Late Night Obama Food that I like a lot. And a few other good ones. There's occasionally they do some more serious songs on and some kind of slower ones. There's a song called Iron Dragon on here that I really love. It's a slower kind of ballady type song. Really great. But Mustang didn't click for me the way that it did for a lot of people. I think about half the songs are great and about half the songs are a little bit less great. So it's not in my top 10, but it's good. It's a good record. Number 6, or number 10, I guess, if we're going backwards. I have these ordered backwards, so it's hard to keep track of them. Number 10 is Switzerland, which is their third record. Now, I have a little bit of a story about Switzerland because this is when I was super into the band in the early 2000s, and I listened to their first 2 records and was really, really into them and thought they were great. And then I heard the release, Switzerland was released, and I saw the music video and heard the song for their first single, which is called I Buy the Drugs. And I watched the music video and I listened to the song and I didn't like the song. And I felt like it was like, I don't know what it was. There was something in me. I felt like it was trying too hard or was, too self-consciously partying. And it just didn't seem like a good song to me. And I felt like they had lost the thread. And I never ended up buying the record until many years later. And that's when I kind of lost touch with the band, the first of several times that I lost touch with the band. And so I wasn't that into Switzerland. I later picked it up and bought it, and it's a pretty good record, and I don't really feel the same way about I Buy the Drugs anymore that I used to. I kind of like it now, but there's a few other great songs on there. I love the song Infected Girls. I love the song Pink Flamingos. It's a solid record throughout, although it's still not in my top 10. Well, I guess it is in my top 10. It's my number 10, but it's not one of my favorites. Okay, number 9 is Flashy. This is the band's 5th album. And this is sort of when I first reconnected with the band very briefly. This came out in 2008. And I was working at the Virgin Megastore in New York City in Union Square at the time. And we would get demo copies of a lot of the records to play in the store so that the customers could hear them. And when we were done with them and we weren't going to play them anymore, the staff were allowed to take them home. And I had forgotten about Electric Six for 3 or 4 years. And this record came out. And I had a demo copy in the staff room. I was able to pick it up and take it home, which I did, and I listened to it, and I liked it a lot. I think Flashy's a really good record. It's got the first track on it is called Gay Bar Part 2, which is a really interesting kind of commentary on how the band's record label just keeps demanding they replicate their big viral hit. And it's got a lot of references to their earlier songs, and it's a good song. I really like the song Heavy Woman, great on there. Lots of great songs on here. Really kind of fun party record. And I don't know why. I listened to it and I liked it, but I didn't get super back into Electric Six. I kind of forgot about them again at the time. It was just, I had a lot of other stuff going on and I didn't think about it. So we come to number 8, which is I Shall Exterminate Everyone Around Me Who Prevents Me From Becoming the Master. A very awkward and cumbersome title for a record. It's a quotation from something, although I can't remember what. This is their 4th album, in between Switzerland and Flashy. This album I would like less if it were not for the fact that it contains one of my very favorite Electric Six songs of all time, which is called Dance Pattern. It's the one I've played the most. It's just really fun. Whenever I want to psych myself up, get ready for a night out, get ready to party, Dance Pattern is the song I put on. It's so much fun and so high energy and so great. It's got other good stuff on it too. There's a song, their kind of big hit off the album was Down at McDonald's. That's a great song. But the back half of the record lags a little bit for me. So it's higher up on my list mainly because I love that one song so much. But the rest of the record, there's some good stuff on it, but it's not consistently great like some of the other ones, I would say. Okay, number 9 is How Dare You. How Dare You is their 13th album, I think. Not number 9, I'm sorry, I'm doing these backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is numbered, is How Dare You. And this came out in like 2012, and it came out after Fresh Blood for Tired Vampires. And to me, this was a real return to form. I really like this record a lot. It's got a long song called Dark Politics, which is one of my favorites by them. It's got a slower kind of ballady song called A Quiet Man at the end, where again, it's got sort of that Southern accent. And it's a really great song. I really love that one. It's a very strong record throughout. It's got lots of songs on it I like. The Hotel Mary Chang is a great one. What else? I'm trying to remember. The Chimes of Titus is a great song on there. I really like How Dare You, and this is the record that made me realize that like they weren't on the downward slope. They still have some great hits in them, and they're still turning out great music every year. So I really love that one. Okay, number 6 is Kill. This is the band's 6th album, the one that came after Flashy, and this is a band record that I've read is not popular with the fans. A lot of people don't like it very much, and I have a hard time understanding that because I really love it. It's one of my top records by them, number 6. And I think it's great. I don't know what people don't like about it. It has slightly of a heavier sound to it. It's a little bit more heavy metal than the rest of their records. But I like that. And there's a really heavy, dark song called Waste of Time and Money that I think is really like kind of good for when you're angry and you want to get out that aggression. Really great song. The last song on the album is called White Eyes. It's sort of a horror movie themed song. One of my very favorite Electric Six songs. I play that one all the time. I really love it. There's other great songs on here. Escape from Ohio is really funny. I went to college in Ohio, so all the references to trying to get out of Ohio and all the bad things about it are pretty funny to me. There's a song called Egyptian Cowboy I like a lot. Just great throughout. There's maybe a couple duds on it, but like mostly I really love this record and think it's one of their best ones. So I don't know why the fans don't like that one. Okay, and then number 5 is Zodiac, which is the one I believe that came out right after Kill. I think it's their 7th record. And this one is very popular with the fans. A lot of people rank it as their all-time favorite Electric Six album. I don't feel that way about it. It's got some great stuff on it. It's got a song called Doom and Gloom that's really good. It's got a weird kind of slower song called Table and Chairs that for some reason I really, really love. But this is not, doesn't have a ton of like really standout tracks to me on it. It's more of a good experience as an album. Like it's solid throughout. There's no real lulls or dips in it. It plays great. Again, I don't think there's a lot of peaks and valleys, but it's a consistently high level album, and I like it a lot. And I just particularly like it because it leads into their 8th record and kind of signals a shift in style that I think is a lot of fun. So Zodiac is great, but again, it doesn't contain a lot of my very favorite Electric Six songs, but it is fun to listen to throughout. It's a great album that you can put on and not worry about having any duds in it. Okay, number 4. This is Bride of the Devil. This was their most recent album before Turquoise. I think it came out in 2018, if I'm remembering correctly. And this is the album when I finally reconnected with the band in a big way. I had not listened to them for 10 years after the release of Flashy. And I don't remember why. For some reason, I was thinking about them, and I looked to see if they had any new albums out. And I was surprised they had like 10 new albums out that I hadn't listened to yet. So I bought Bride of the Devil, which was their most recent at the time, and I went to go see them in the tour supporting that. And I loved it. I think it's a great record. And then I went back and bought all the other records that I could get so that I could listen to their entire catalog. I think Bride of the Devil is very, very strong. Particularly the title track is great. There's a song called It Gets a Little Jumpy that I really love. What else is on this record? I'm trying to remember. Safety Girl is really good. There's some kind of slower ones at the end. Full Moon Over the Internet and The Worm in the Wood, kind of darker ones. But this is like, I was amazed that after 14 records, they are still hitting this hard and writing these great songs. And it's a lot more nuanced, I guess, than their early stuff because there's more variety in tone. Like there's a lot of slower ones and there's a lot of darker ones, and then there's the party ones as well. So it's not just the party songs all the time. They've kind of matured and explored different styles. Bride of the Devil, my number 4. Number 3 is Fire, their debut. And they called it Fire because a lot of the songs have references to fire. And that's sort of the type of band this is. I was going to say that earlier and I forgot. Like, this is an extreme over-the-top band, like comically over-the-top. They write lyrics that if I wrote them, I would think they were too goofy to put in songs, but they put them in songs and they work beautifully. They're great. And so a lot of their song titles are things like Nuclear War on the Dance Floor, Danger High Voltage, Rock and Roll Evacuation, Dance Epidemic, things like that. They're always like extreme. And so Fire is a great name for their debut album. It's the one that has their 2 meme songs, Danger High Voltage and Gay Bar, on it. It's really great. I really love this record. It's not my top one of all time because I feel like their sound is still a little not completely formed yet. They're still kind of working out the kinks. It's a little bit rougher on the production end, not quite as polished. But there's so many great songs on here. Dance Commander is wonderful. Improper Dancing is one of my very favorites. I really like the last song, which is a little bit slower, called Synthesizer. That's a great one. Just a super fun party album. Fire is my number 3 pick for them because it's just great. Now, the top 2, I really had a hard time choosing because I love both these records so much. But for number 2, I went with their 8th album, Heartbeats and Brainwaves. I can't speak today. Heartbeats and Brainwaves, which is where they went a little bit more synth pop. A lot more electronics on this record. And I like electronics, so that's okay with me because they also kept the heaviness of the guitars and the drums and everything. It's not just drum machines or anything like that. But there's a lot more synthesizers on this record. And I think it sounds great. The song Heartbeats and Brainwaves, the titles track, which is the last track on the album, is maybe my favorite Electric Six track of all time, right next to Dance Pattern. I really love that one. It's just so epic, and then it kind of has this like long electronic fade out at the end, just instrumental that goes on for like 2 minutes. It's wonderful. What else is on this record that I love? Hello, I See You, which is sort of an apocalyptic vision of the end of the world. Wonderful. I Go Through Phases, I really like. Free Samples, I really like. The intergalactic version is great. There's just so many great songs on here, and it's a little bit of a different sound for them because it's their only record apart from maybe Fresh Blood for Tired Vampires, but that one doesn't work. It's their only record that really sounds electronic. But I love the style on it, and it's a very powerful, very enthusiastic performance. It's just great. And I almost put it as my number 1 record, but I couldn't because I had to put this as my number 1 record, which is their second album, Senor Smoke, following up with Fire. And I have great memories of this album because around the time when it came out, which was 2005, I think, I went to visit my friend Ryan in Illinois, and we were going to make a movie. He was going to make a movie, and I was going to do the music for it. And we were talking about that, and we drove around the city, and we just listened to this album over and over and over and over again. And it became one of my favorite records, and that's when I got super into Electric Six in the first place. I just love it. It has Rock and Roll Evacuation on it. It has a song called Jimmy Carter, which is a great ballad, one of their best ballads. It's got Dance Epidemic, one of their best party songs. Like if you want to get people dancing, it's a dance epidemic is the way to do it. It's so much fun. It's got another ballad, The Future is in the Future, which is really nice. It's got a cover of Radio Gaga, which I could do without, but they didn't really want to do it, but their record label pushed them into doing it. But it's just fantastic. It's one of my favorite albums, and it never fails to put me in a good mood. The whole thing is solid all the way through. It has some of the career highlights for me. And so even though it's now 20 years old, I still think it's one of their best records and really, really holds up. So that's my ranking of the 15 Electric Six studio albums that don't include covers and lives and compilations. If you know the band, please post your own rankings in the list below and tell me what I got wrong. If you don't know the band, I encourage you to check them out. They are currently on tour. You should go see them if they're coming to a place near you, because they do put on a really great show. And that's all I've got for today. So if you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications. If you're new here and you're just here for Electric Six, I ordinarily do book reviews. Occasionally I do movies. Occasionally I do music, but mainly book reviews. But stick around. I put up a new video every Wednesday, and this is a little bonus one coming out on a day that's not a Wednesday. Thanks so much for watching. I've been your host, Logan Albright, and I'll catch you next time.